What is up, down, and sideways, all you beautiful individuals? It is another episode of League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with fine folks to break down, I guess, the first official weekend recap of Split 3. 3 out of the 4 major regions, even the LPC kicking off before the LEC, which basically never happened. So I'm going to say 4 out of the 5 major regions, all kicking off with action, and we had big dogs across the board. Teams at the top of the table kicking things off. Obviously, T1 already ended the perfect run for Gen G, but both them and Hanwha Life business as usual over the weekend. A couple of 2-0s. We'll start on that T1 side of things because Nongshim did have leads. Were in the driver's seat in both of these games, but whether it's a team fight that T1 has no business winning, or of course the old win con of chasing Faker in the top lane too hard and dying.
I'm feeling like this guy that rolls outside, goes for a nice stroll, and you're enjoying the sunshine that is T1 performing at this type of level, and usual things like overextending to chase down Faker, all these type of things that we know and see so many times with T1 games when they are playing well and teams are falling into their certain traps and traits and whatnot. But man, I'm waiting because I feel like T1 performing like this, going under the stretch that they have been on, over 30 competitive games in the last 3 weeks. The shoe's gotta drop at some point where we feel there's a slump, there's a down point or whatever for something with T1, because it's almost hard to imagine T1 remaining in this form, in this type of magic all the way through this summer split until we get to the World Championship. It has been fantastic. And yes, unfortunate for Nongshim, early advantages meant nothing in this game when it came down to the execution and creativity T1 is able to pull out later.
Yeah, I mean, it does feel like peaking way too early for T1 ahead of Worlds, whereas we're normally seeing them peak through that entire run when they barely scrape their way through there. So yeah, very interested to see how Split 3 continues to play out. Obviously, Faker hits 3,500 LCK kills. He's like 600 or 700 ahead of both Deft and BDD behind him. 700 plus kills is like guy's career, like more than the career average somebody gets at the LCK, and that's how far ahead he is to dude in second.
It's one of the rare occasions where you are watching someone that is the very best at what they do in one of these situations and is able to be that record holder, be that standard, be the ultimate test bar that you are looking at, and it's still going up. It's still rising. It is still putting all these numbers ahead of an astronomical difference between him and anybody else. Faker continues to do so. And you know what? Buckle up. I hope you're ready for more of Faker and T1 doing this together, re-signing for 4 years as well. Announced, of course. Yes, this is a big one. And it only adds the X. It's like 3, 4, 5. It's an unkillable Demon King cherry on top of the sundae for T1 this weekend.
4 years, by the way. 33. That'll take him to 33 years old. There's got to be clauses in this contract where Faker can just say, actually, I decided to retire. See you later. I'll be a part of the team in some other way. But that seems crazy for a guy who's already been playing for 12 plus years to ink a long-term deal. But if there's anyone like that, it's going to be Faker with T1. Hanwha Life side of things, they had the maybe potentially on paper harder matchup, although KT and Nongshim seem pretty even. But this is just a typical staple KT roster game. BDD dragging the team, kicking and screaming to try and get a lead, even on something like a Malzahar, and Perfect and Dokdom being completely gapped by their counterparts.
Oh man, this continues to be one of the most feel-bad stories of the year, is BDD's form despite the actual execution and rest of the contributions of this KT roster. We've gone a little bit up and down on the Colster this year, trying to, figure out where and what type of power level is for the rest of this team, because there hasn't been any type of question or evaluation period needed for someone like BDD in the way that he has been able to perform this year. That continued in this series against Hanwha Life. You continue to see that he is performing at an exceptional level and someone that should be of use to one of these top tier teams. just not on a top tier team is the situation. And you so much see, I think, the struggle and frustration that is, almost with anybody else would be overflowing at this point. But BDD keeping it calm and collected still with the rest of his crew on KT, despite some of these walloping wumps coming through from the side of Hanwha Life.
It feels like this format of I can't even remember the different names, Ascend, Nirvana, winners and losers bracket format that we're talking about is only going to further cement the differences between, I'll say top three on this. Even top three. You're getting T1, Gen.G, Hanwha at least playing each other multiple times, but you're going to see D+, I think, really separate, and it's really only going to further what we already knew heading into these groups with these triple round robin matchups.
Yeah, and I think that's the one that we are waiting for. I think a little bit still is for a squad like D plus Kia to really turn up the heat in that lower bracket loser, whatever label you throw on it, LCK type of thing. But yes, KT obviously being exposed, being, too much on your plate type of situation with the caliber of teams in this top end of the LCK, that was absolutely no surprise for anybody. Just it makes it so painfully clear that, something needs to change within either KT roster itself to help fulfill this roster for BDD, or somebody has got to parachute in behind enemy lines and get BDD out of there. Save private BDD. Get them on a good squad.
KT kind of feels like they're in a Souls game where you get a boss and you go, okay, I'm not ready for this guy. I'm going to come back. I'm going to circle my way around. And then you find another boss that you can't beat. You go, okay, I'll go back here. And then all three of the paths that you can go are bosses that you're stuck on. And they are in that endless loop in the LCK right now.
No beginner paths. Every single one leads to an end game boss of sorts in the LCK. It is not a safe territory for KT roster. Unfortunately, BDD's efforts go to waste. Hanwha Life, yes, I think you're looking at Zeus. Bounce back game from Zeka, I think, is another important one to keep track of as far as early for this Hanwha Life team in this split. But overall, nothing super noteworthy to take away other than just, again, feeling bad for BDD wasting these performances.
We had the debut of Split 3 action in the LTA. This new look format, although week one didn't feel like much of a new format. We just carried over some of the standings from Split 2, and that's how we got these initial matchups. And to the surprise of probably nobody, it resulted in 2-0s across the board, all four series over the weekend. The closest of them was definitely the 100 Thieves versus Team Liquid 1. 100 Thieves actually had angles where they were in control, but it's, again, like KT, kind of the same old themes of Quid and River being the standouts, not getting enough from the bot lane. I know FBI's Lucian game is really being heavily scrutinized because it was quite sus throughout, and of course for TL it was Yawn completely gapping that matchup.
The Lucian one is egregiously bad is the problem.
There's a couple plays that are...
I might not play with him if he's my friend the next couple of days in solo queue type of situation after that type of experience. If I'm one of these guys on 100 Thieves, seeing that type of stuff go through it, that's the bar for solo queue play. I'm not talking about professional. That's a whole other type of thing. That was certainly an ugly spot, to say the least. Team Liquid, I think you want to see a little bit sharper, but again, maybe a slight improvement over the last times out, and more so the last memory, I guess you would have of Team Liquid before heading into this next part of the LTA. But yes, expected results almost entirely across the board for this region, and results that are so one-sided that it's become an issue once again, very much so pushed to the forefront to talk about is where are teams like FlyQuest and Cloud9 supposed to get that preparation and improvement to go up against some of those top teams that we have seen them up against at MSI, at EWC? How do you improve when this is the competition level you are having here in the LTA?
Yeah, and I think for both those squads, not only is it a point of you're not being punished for mistakes that you make that you should be, or that international teams will punish you. You don't even know these are mistakes because you never get caught by doing them in the LTA. And I know these are, bottom matchups for both Fly and C9 this week. But seeing Disguised and Lion engage, they whiff all three of their ultis, DSG on FlyQuest, when they should be caught out if they play it well. But then FlyQuest just blows up the team fight. Or Lion Gaming is diving a Rakan and just chasing without looking at their map and dying. Like, how are you improving as a team and as a region if this is the gameplay?
Which I think let's be maybe a little cruel at this point, but maybe a little serious. Got to rip the Band-Aid off of Disguised Toast and say, look, we love you. We love, all the things, we're happy to have you here. I think at the very least, we got to seriously turn up that dial for the next split, whether that is finances or whatever it is.
They might not be here.
That's the thing. Otherwise, you might not be in here in one of these type of situations. You got to find a way to level up and put more out there. I think when you're looking at that as an organization, despite a lot of the positives that are going to be behind the scenes or why people would root for them, got to have something else. Because when you're looking at this, you're finding, where are you going to improve? Where are you going to be tested? How are you going to learn all sorts of things like this within an environment like this? I think one of the avenues you could point to is maybe saying, you hope Team Liquid continues to improve, continues to show that they are a team that can push for an international appearance. And I think seeing Impact put together his best performance of the split, not the heaviest of statements, I know, given the way that he has performed this split, but at least a positive sunlight shine here for Team Liquid to start out this summer split. Seeing that, and I think that's one of the avenues you're going to have to bank on if you are FlyQuest or Cloud9. Otherwise, it's just looking at how you play against each other. That doesn't happen often enough. How much can you seriously take away from those type of ones? At the end of the day, I think both of them need more from within the domestic scene for them to improve. But at least I like the angle that FlyQuest took this weekend of getting some stage time, getting some appearances for Gakkos in that top side, getting something different and starting to flesh things out and prepare themselves maybe a little bit differently for either, what will be the World Championships or for next year.
Yeah, and obviously, the six-man roster was something talked about months ago, and they said Split 3 would happen. Maybe didn't think it would happen in week 1, but it's a matchup against Disguised that, again, Bwipo absolutely manhandled them on the Swain in game 1, and Gakkos, he got a lot of attention. He got camped a little bit. He got solo killed, but listen, now the youngest player in the league, which Sniper was very quick to talk about. Now is there the next matchup? This guy usurped him as the youngest player in the league, so wants him to teach him a lesson, told FlyQuest to suit him in when they do match up. But that leads to this pick and play format, which was kind of fun afterwards. The guys all have their little banners that they bring out to choose their opponent. And again, they're mostly going to be mismatches heading into this, with the lower tier teams picking the top squads. And I mean, it's a little bit for fun, but you need a fourth team to level up. Even if you think Team Liquid's going to be better, we need Shopify or 100 Thieves to kind of really prove that they can at least contend with these other top 3 teams in the LTA. Otherwise, the competitive integrity of this split is going to be rough.
That's the biggest thing, I think, when you're talking about this type of format, when you're explaining and going through it. The biggest thing that jumps out on the page is, yes, if you had a third, if you had a fourth team that was competitive, that showed an angle, that was able to take games consistently, all these type of questions about them towards the top, that would be absolutely a scenario where I'm hooked. I think that angle, that, a funky monkey business in to get some, storylines and everything else would be great for the LTA. But with only those 2 absolute forerunners that are very much so at that forefront, unless we start to see more heat from Team Liquid continue, it's not going to be a format that I think is going to play out into these ultra extreme, exciting, tense matches that you want.
And again, beyond Impact, there's still lots of positives to have for Team Liquid. Jan is still in the conversation for best ADC in the league right there with Masu. Core JJ had a great series. Yuji is only going to have more time to develop. It was really just scratching the surface what we got out of him in Split 2. There's still, I don't want to say very much, but an angle or possibility. We've seen Team Liquid, they could level up and win this whole split.
I'm not even fully ready to sell out, get everything out of here, but clearance sale on a guy like APA and him being able to be a star player for this Team Liquid team. Still banking on him improving, getting that performance and getting that contribution level for this team, and somewhere you can rely on him in that mid lane to be that type of contributor. That's a big thing, and one of the big signs I'm still holding out for to see in this hopeful turnaround for Team Liquid to be one of our challenging teams within the LT.
Very curious to see how this pick and play format goes, though, because I feel like a couple weeks from now, going through this whole process again, people are just going to be rolling their eyes, yawning like, yeah, okay, just set the matchups, I don't know if this is ever going to be a repeat format going forward for the LTA.
And unless Team Liquid makes it interesting, right? Unless you get that third or fourth team to step up and make it where, okay, now it kind of really matters who's picking who and what's going on in these situations. Otherwise, yeah, right now it's really not grabbing me, and I don't expect the next couple of weeks to change that in any type of way.
Especially when, all these guys are interviewed picking, and the lower tier teams say, well, we feel like we have the best chance against this squad, and the other squad goes, how do you feel about the matchup? Well, these guys are trash, so we're not worried. Okay, great. Bring the next two out.
Hey, it makes for the exciting LTA TV that we always love to check in and tune into, those type of side comments and everything else. But yeah, gonna be an interesting experiment, to say the least, to see, as things have always been throughout these splits for the LTA.
If you could get awards for trash talk, the LTA would have a lot more international titles coming their way. LPL's already obviously had maybe a few weeks of action in Split 3 because they hit things roaring, but obviously BLG and AL both back on the Rift after their crazy schedules. They throw them right in the ringer and say, let's match up again for you guys. Some MSI revenge, and believe it or not, the fourth time, not the third time, fourth time is the charm for BLG as they take down the defending LPL champs. And of course, this is the debut of Shadow. Former Mad Lions jungler Shadow is on BLG as the starting jungler. This is not a drill, and he actually looked pretty good in both matchups for BLG.
Who does BLG turn to after international embarrassment and once again being dispatched by the LCK? LEC Shadow. Here we go.
Shadow.
Right now. Is that right?
Shadow?
That's not the first option I thought was going to be on the list, but hey, shout out to him, because absolutely some early good signs here with this BLG team, and his performance is a good part of that. Careful, because we've talked about this before with Beishuan. We've talked about this before as well with BLG, even more so when you keep going down the line of the junglers that have been in this position.
Jhin and Wei, as soon as they swap, there's like a honeymoon phase where you're feeling good and then it falls off.
Yeah, so absolutely still holding out on that one, looking to see where the improvements are going to be and how they can continue for this BLG team. The other part of making this equation of evaluation for both of these teams is understanding that this, yes, the fourth time is the charm for BLG, but it comes after what has been an absolute blitzing schedule for both of these squads, as far as not only how many games, but where you're playing them, when you're playing them, all sorts of things like that with the travel schedule. And yes, it didn't stop. As soon as you got home to the LPL, you were right back out there, game after game, day after day, all sorts of things in that regard. So very much so, looking at this one with some special lines underneath it to understand the situation around this one that led to this matchup.
Yeah, any one of these squads that were at the MSI, EWC, Crazy Gauntlet, you're giving extra leeway, extra grace, which is why when AL follows that up by losing to Weibo to drop to 0-2, we are the furthest thing from panicking with that insane scheduling that they've had, and no question, they'll be able to bounce back. And it does feel like Shadow coming, a roster change, is a bit of a spark for a team that just had a wild month. It's kind of extra motivation that someone like AL obviously didn't have.
Yeah, and I think, again, a relatively necessary move. I don't know if Shadow is specifically the guy that you would go for type of thing, but I think making a type of move and wherever you could for this BLG team to be a spark, be a difference maker. I think of, hockey games, right? Where maybe you get behind by a couple goals and maybe you're not even pointing the finger at the goalie himself and saying he's the issue. You might swap netminders to try and spark a change, a different type of momentum for the team. And I think that might be part of the cards that BLG are playing when they do this type of thing. And you do get that honeymoon type of explosion of power from this team. Can that continue? Can that honeymoon last all the way through the LPL, all the way through the World Championship? I don't think so. But we'll see with this BLG team and where they can improve in the LPL. Still, though, very much so giving that cushion, as we talked about, understanding the schedule from MSI and EWC.
I'll tell you one team that is not suffering from burnout because they got FOMO. They weren't invited to all these events, and that is Top Esports, who continue to hit the ground running. Yet another 2-0, 4-0 now early on in this split, and they completely bodied JDG on the day so badly that they were amassing like 3-4K early game gold leads with scaling comps, with these late game carries like Azir to wait and scale up with their 80 carry as well. And they look angry, hung in with Jackie Love. They look like the best bot lane right now early on in the LPL, and Kanavi continues to rack up MVPs too.
Oh man, Top Esports absolutely doing everything they can. I feel like I'm at, when you're at the mall and you're looking like, okay, where's this store I need to get to? And you go find the map and it says, you are here with the big star. That's how I feel right now, looking at that mall map and you are here. Where are you? I can tell you, Top Esports has made it all the way back into that conversation into, I want to see you on the international stage again. You built yourself all the way back up the tippity top of that mountain of disappointment to get yourself into that star spot in the mall. You are here. And here, yes, that is in a spot where I want to see you at an international event, the way that things have heated up for this Top Esports team and what they have done in the LPL. To me, at this point, they keep this stretch going. There's nothing more that they can do to say that I want to see them back on the international stage. They can be trusted with another opportunity to represent the LPL.
They look like they're ready for another date with AL or BLG at the end of these playoff runs. But that is it today for League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you. Absolute beauties. Thanks for hanging out.